Always amazed about Andras's presentations. Please let me share the screen, because every presentation he has, he shares a lot of information which allows me to understand things from another point of view. Even today, we are going to talk about plants, but basically what's going to happen if the presentation is good, we will understand much more about ourselves. And this is what it is. I mean, the life is all about us. And I would like to lead the presentation and everybody's attention. Even the planet life is up to us. So our life is dependent on the plants. We cannot separate ourselves, because life was titled and named by Andras that it wasn't made as far as scientists thrown billions and billions and trillions of years. So he say, if I remember well, he said 2.5 million of years ago, planet Earth was born, and the life of the plants are much older, much longer present on this globe, on this beautiful planet than we are. Humanity is present around 70,000 years. And because we are talking about the spirituality, especially about a spiritual family, our spiritual family was born 28,000 years ago. So, with a mission. And today, where I would like to drive the attention is that we can't really separate ourselves from the life of plants. First of all, our connection is completely dependent on them. We exist, even if we agree or not. Without plants, there's no life on planet Earth. And it's not only about what we eat, because we are eating the plants, and believe it or not, they are actually serving us with pleasure. It's not a problem for them. And I hope we will find it out from the presentation. But also they release oxygen for us, and so we can breathe even without. I always remember the teaching of Andras that the biggest is the smallest, and the smallest is the biggest. If I see the plant's life, especially in the last 50 years possibly, since so much chemicals involved, I don't know, and I don't think I would be able to assist for how am I treated by humanity, but they still are. I would like to drive the attention that plants have no brain, so they don't think. But they do everything by consciousness, so they are connected with the highest fields, and they do everything by feelings, and they actually feel our intent before we get close to them. So we can't actually deceive them. You see a picture on the main screen, and this is the front screen of the presentation. Every picture of it was made by myself. So I'm always saying I'm not an agriculturist, I'm not a horticulturist, never really studied. Everything came to me by experience. Basically, life put me into situations where I got involved with plants, and they became a big part of my life. What I so much appreciate, because I got really big experience with them. It's not big enough, don't understand like this, but they showed me some amazing miracles already, and I know exactly they will much more. So there's much more awaiting in the journey. So let me share these experiences, and let me lead the journey. How Andras, I try to lead the presentation by his intention to understand plants from higher beings, as higher beings from a higher point of view. First of all, what we have to be aware of, and it's scary today, so these figures, the The recent official data shows a great decrease in the recent years of the mineral trace elements and vitamin contain is missing now. So plants basically cannot produce ourselves those necessary ingredients. They can't follow the emission as they are, and they can't pass on these goodies anymore. Some people say that they drop down below 10% as originally was. So these are warning data. Everybody in the agriculture more or less aware about this. So even in Ireland, it's governmental program for up till 2025 to increase the numbers of organic growers, organic farmers. Now, we are not organic farmers, but as the intent shows, they are willing to change the conventional way of farming as it is. Today, the percentage is 1 or 2%, so it's very, very low. I have been in many farm walks in presentations, so I was told about these numbers, and it's happening all around the world. So because experts, agronomists know these figures, they are willing to do something to change and protect the plants as they are.
István?
Yes?
May I have a question? There is like on the left lower corner, it says this is about the grains, that there is no red line. It means that it has 0 nutritional level.
No, it's not about it. What you see there, I just find it on the internet. It say the nutrient drops during the years. I basically found, mostly I found details up to 96. But since 1996, this decrease have been grown, unfortunately. So I don't know how much they are official. One thing for sure, they can't communicate the emission anymore. So we are not receiving vitamins, we're not receiving trace elements. There are worldwide missing trace elements, for example, selenium. Everybody knows that the land is missing selenium, and other trace elements are also missing. So these are the goodies which are really feeding us. So I would like to drive the attention why these things happens, and I don't want to warn anyone or worry anyone, because the one who worry others, possibly not the man of God. So I would like to show you a solution, and I would like to show you details, datas, and proofs that a new dimensional way of farming, a new dimensional way of thinking was born, a new technology was born. And I would like to present to you farmers who are users, so it's not experimental years anymore. And these farms, these people producing best quality all around the world. So I would like to ask Gabriella, how do you see my presentation?
It's the presenter's view. We see what you see.
I don't know how much or how.
But this is perfectly okay for us. So it's.
I will be able possibly to switch.
You know what? Maybe Balázs knows how to fix this.
Balázs, do you know how we can actually fix? Because in this morning I was not able to use the how you say, the presentational view, but everybody sees what I do see. Where could be a mistake?
Let me check. I don't know, because I don't frequently use the PPT.
Then
I'm
you know
checking.
what, I can lead it in blind, because I would like others to to see not the presenter
Usually
view. But
when he starts the presentation, we see the presentation mode while he sees the presenter mode, which is this. But now we both see his view, and we don't know why. Istvan, did you click on that monitor drawing just under the picture? There is a half monitor picture. I don't know what that does. Like under the picture. And yeah.
yes, I tried it. Yes, I did.
What is that? Oh, okay. It's not that.
Okay. So I think I'm gonna do what I was planning to do, is to put everything on the screen, and I will be able to lead the presentation in this mode. I want you to enjoy it, so that's how we're gonna continue. So sorry, Balázs, and thanks. I think because we previously went through, I will be able to do so. We see actually what's going on today on the left of the screen. We have been on a presentation 2 weeks ago from America, so we are aware about chemtrails, geoengineering, and we know they contain like heavy metals. We know the main ingredients, which is cadmium, barium, titanium, and aluminium. Tons of these heavy metal particles have been thrown out into the atmosphere, which is affecting plants. We see a possible future. I'm not saying hopefully, because I know it's not the future waiting for us, because somebody came up with solution. Pesticides, chemical fertilizers, radioactive and strong chemicals, they are making the plants, they are stop the plant's communication, so that's why they are not able to communicate and forward a message to us, because we're basically light eaters, where what we eat and what we use is the light, the photon particles, what they pack in, and it's going through the development so we can receive it, and we are unpacking. This is what's happening in DNA level. So these disturbances, that's where I would like to lead you, causing the damage and causing the missing nutritions, even in the soil, for the animal kingdom, of course, so it's missing from ourselves. And at the same time, I would like to introduce the solution called matrix drops farming. You see the gentleman, Kevin Lafan, on one of the videos I would like to present, and also some more data, more details, more proofs about the quality figures. Basically, he's on matrix drops products. He's a matrix drop farmer. With Gabriella, we have been done a lot of reports from his land. There are videos online on the Matrix Drops website. So since the first application, his success made him convinced that he needs no other product anymore. So he's using matrix drops in everyday farming, even in the animal healthcare. And the results shows amazing amount of nutrients, available nutrients and elements which have been bound in his soil by the use of 30 years of chemical fertilizers. And in the last 7 years, he's not using any chemicals, only matrix drops. So after 2 years of application of matrix, which is basically, he dilutes the information patterns into his water tract, and he sprays it out in the fields. In quantum physical world, he impregnates the space. The whole matrix field around them is building up. I'm going to show you a video how does it looks like. And in 2 years, he achieved an amazing reconnection for the plants. So the matrix field built back itself, resulting resulting the perfect biological functions of his soil. I will show you, I will also present you a garden's life, and the amazing transformation of a garden which I have been filmed, and I'm going to show you pictures. It's happening worldwide. So there's more and more farmers using the technique. It's not organic farming, you have to know. I would like to put an attention on the word, it's not organic farming. Even it suits in every rules and whatsoever. Matrix of farming is the only technological farming today which not allowed and doesn't need any whatsoever chemicals to use. In organic farming, there are reduced number, but they are still using chemicals. Sulfur, for example, or potassium. There's many of these chemical elements. Now in matrix of farming, nothing like this exists. And as we learned previously about the protocol, in case of matrix of farming, the protocol we recommend is not to use whatsoever because they are doing the disturbances. So let's go forward and let me introduce you the plant's life. I would like you to understand from a different point of view, from a higher point of view. I would like to lead your attention to introduce you the last century discoveries made by and with plants. I think most of them are from America. These are American experiments from scientists who started to investigate, to understand the plants. And I would like to start with a video about a very sensitive machine which is called the polygraph. Sorry, it's tricking me. When I switch back, and I only switched on the picture. So here the video.
Moore?
Yes.
Is your first name James?
Yes.
James Moore is being tested by a polygraph machine, or lie detector, which measures heart rate, respiration, and galvanic skin response, and can reveal his emotional state.
So basically what we see is a polygraph, which is called lie detector. And this machine is so sensitive, it's actually sensors. And on a scale, it signs if somebody is lying, so the person doesn't say the truth. Why is it important in connection with the plant's life? Is because the same machine have been used to investigate and discover reactions from the plants. And what we see where the computer or this detector is working is on an emotional, or let's say this way, on invisible fields. It's going to be very important. The next video is about another experiment. Can you hear me now? So what you see here is the polygraph is connected to a plant, and the plant is experiencing that beside another plant have been destroyed by a knife, and the plant was actually giving sign that it feels the pain of the other plant. Now scientists are taking a draw and they pulling a piece of paper, and somebody get a mission to kill a plant which is beside experimental plant. You see the gentleman pulls the sign kill. So he takes the job. And you see the machine reaction when the person destroys its plate. And most importantly, scientists are experiencing that the plant is capable to recognize the killer of the other plant by calling the scientist one by one. Anything the scientist thinks or try to say with the mind, the plant doesn't bother. But as long as the gentleman, the actual killer arrives, the plant immediately recognizes it. This was an amazing experience and experiment which was showing how sensitive they are, and they have a capability of tuning into more subtle fields that connects us to consciousness. Plants have no mind, but they have access to consciousness. A mind is a place for thoughts, while consciousness is a place for recognition based on patterns. This is how plants can recognize.
Sorry, may I have a question? That does it mean that while we have a mind, we still get the message of the patterns? So which means that...
Yes, we are, but I believe that the mind is capable to divert us. If we would be able to give attention to our higher sensors, same as the plants, we would like, and we are capable to receive the information patterns as well. So we can actually switch in into a much higher and a much more sensitive field. Because the plant recognized the killer, and there were other experiments made, like it has been proved that they are not only censoring each other, but they are also connected to other animals as well. Fishes have been killed beside the experimental plant in another room by throwing them into boiled water. And exactly the time when they were dying, they died at the same second the plant was showing on this machine the reaction. So this means that they are tuned and using a much higher dimensional sensor, which what we also have, and we would like to be able to access. I think mostly this is how I can understand the words above.
But my question was that we probably still can sense these patterns, like, for example,
yes, we are.
Who might be the killer, for example, but we are overruling this sensing, with our mind.
Yes.
And I am sure that this is how we make ourselves sick, because our mind is giving another direction than our spirit would give to follow.
The video which started to make András, the inventor of matrix drops computer, to create such a computer was an experiment which was made on humans. This is how our humanity or our sensors have been experimented. People were sitting in front of televisions, and the television was showing random pictures. Not only the lie detector, but much more sensitive techniques were connected to the experimental people brain and on their heart. So they were actually taking information for the person reaction. It was surprising that the heart reaction was much quicker than the brain reaction. So the heart was censoring first before the brain was sending the signal. If the picture was, for example, an attacking snake, so it was a horrible picture. What was even more surprising is that before the picture was shown to the person, this heart was already given this, the signal, even a fracture of a second before. So this is how our human intuitive skills, these connection possibilities, capabilities, was actually proven. And this is the answer of the question. We also have, but we have to be able to access, which for, we have to be able to not skip the mind, but somehow be able to reduce its use and its frequencies. So the next experiment shows another very interesting.
It's a houseplant. The slightest touch makes its leaves spring shut. Normally, that's a defense against insects, not hospital staff. The anesthetist is going to try to stop the mimosa's signature leaf movement. She's giving it a drink of ether, an early knockout drug used in humans. After an hour, it's time to test the result. There's not a flicker of movement. The mimosa seems to be out cold. In humans, ether works to stop nerve.
This experiment was much more than interesting, because ether, as it's used in human use in hospitals before the operation to get someone to sleep, the same ether get the plant to sleep as well. Why is it so important? Is because the ability to sleep is the specific property of the soul. So it means that plants, they do have a soul as well. So they are sleeping like ourselves. As you've seen, when the plant fell asleep, it didn't sensor anymore because it was knocked out. Other experiments and people who made experiments on trees, they recognize that when plants, or mostly when the trees are sleeping, they are actually lowering their leaves, lowering their branches. So they do have a soul, and they do react on energies. And this is what the next experiment is about.
Stellst du sie dann einfach direkt unters Licht?
Two German students hope to find out, with the help of the scientist's old friend, the tomato plant. The plants are placed in separate rooms and kept under exactly the same conditions, except one. One group gets its very own sound system. For 2 hours a day, they are blasted with classical music, whether they like it or not. Their neighbors are left in peace. Apart from the music, daily life for both sets of plants is exactly the same. The students measure the plants each day. 15 days later, it's time to test the results. The blue bars show the growth of the plants in the music room. The plants exposed to music are a little bit ahead of the others. The results are too close to prove anything, but it's an exciting step toward
This is how they react on the energies, because they doesn't really hear the exact music. They have no ears, but they feel, or they are actually receiving these information patterns from harmonic music as a positive pattern. It also have been experienced that the rock music, for example, they don't like. So it's not a communication, but same as ourselves, they are censoring energies as well. Why is it so important? There is a special technique, a special method, which is called Kirlian photography. Light emission of plants can be detected. This method is capable of capturing auras on film. The aura of plants fade when being pruned or deprived of water. They observe that when a leaf is being cut off a plant, the aura of the missing part is still there. As long as the aura energy of the rest of the plant is able to fuel it. Now, what it shows to me anyway is a proof of the higher dimensional being and the consciousness. Because when a plant is losing a leaf, they still feed the energy. And it also have been observed, it's a hologram actually, that before they grow a leaf, with the same photography, with the same technique, the hologram, it's already present. Where I really would like to lead the attention is the consciousness, which is a much higher dimensional being, what they also have, so ourselves, which means that the plan is first, and then the physical manifestation. It's very simple to understand. Imagine a car. Let's say somebody would like to build a car. Nobody can imagine that the first car being put together by a wheel, by a steering wheel, by the pedals. It's never going to be a car. Like if you shake the parts together, it will never form a car. It's not the way it goes. The plan is first. This is the proof for me anyway, for the consciousness, for the plan, which is a much higher dimensional being. So there must be somehow a communication to them. This high dimensional being is what have been discovered by a genius, a mastermind, by Max Planck, who said, I devoted my whole life in researching the matter. And what he said about the matter is that it does not exist at all. He said that everything what we see is energy. And this energy is basically operated by a consciousness mind. He named this mind as matrix of all matter. The consciousness started with the creation. When the first element was created, where there were no physical reality exist, by the creator intent, when God said to be, he resonated, vibrated, and manifested by his intent the first element, which is hydrogen. After the first elements, the rest of the elements were made in the alchemic labor in the universe, in the sun, with fusion, nuclear fusion. These elements are one information patterns, which information patterns have been decoded by Matrix Drops research team and stored. Not only the 108 element, but the combinations Also, the information patterns of bacteria, viruses, parasites, more than 8 million of information patterns are stored on matrix drops computer, and as combination, they are stabilized on matrix drops products. This made it possible to communicate with the plants. It was in 2011 when the research team of matrix drops succeeded in deciphering the basic code of minerals, plants, animals, and humans. This cognition is giving such a key to humanity, like the Rosette Stone, that made it possible to decipher Egyptian hieroglyphs. The matrix drops computer analyzes what people, animal, and plants feel and want. Imagine this mission. When the universal keys have been decoded, imagine the discovery, imagine access to this beautiful reality, and by the intent to share with everyone on planet Earth, and to be able to communicate it to plants, it had to be stored, and it has been stabilized on the environment, the only environment which is available for everyone, which is water. Matrix drops computer allows us and every owner of the computer to scan these information patterns even if the person or a plant is not present. We can tune through the same morphogenetical field what have been proved that the plants are connected to. Same ourselves, as Gabriella, you have been coming up with the questions, and the same, or not the same, but the human's experience show that we are also connected to the morphogenetical field, this informational field. We are all connected. We can do scan, we can do connection. So same accurately, we can actually scan this informational pattern, this informational field for a human, for a plant, or even for an animal. Now let's talk about dimensions a little bit. Because there are huge difference between these fields. The third dimension is the substantial world. This is what we can actually see by the eye. The three-dimensional field, as you see, a beautiful field, how it's come in Laffan's matrix drops farm. But what we have, and we are able to see with the Killian photograph, is a higher dimensional being, the energies. Everything what manifests in the physical world have energy and form through the energies. But as you see, the fifth dimension is where the informations are and the consciousness. So we have to understand the dimensions a little bit more to understand how we can change a third dimensional reality by accessing a plant or a human or any living being higher dimensional own. To understand, a very simple way to understand is my shadow. As you see behind me, I'm moving my hands, and my third dimensional being, reflection, is my two-dimensional shadow. But the intent doesn't come from the muscles itself, which is my third dimensional being, neither from my energies, but from my consciousness, which commands my brain, and through the nerves I'm capable to do these movements. Same as for the plants, and I would like to lead you to understand what amazing capacities and possibilities lives in this connection, or to tune in to these higher dimensional fields and to be able to change the physical realities. Scientific opinion, which based on the newest scientific researches that new elements can be created with nuclear fusion on extremely high temperature. As I said to you by the elements, when the first element was born, hydrogen, the rest of the elements were created in the sun. Hydrogen is the first element of the periodic table which have one neutron and one electron. Its information is much more simple than a higher dimensional, or let's say the next line elements which contain a bigger package of informations as they are adding or including more electrons. Every electron, one electron, which is an entity, gives a completely different attitude to the elements. So the scientific opinion is that the only way to create a new material is to fusion them, to collide them, and for this you need extremely high temperature, like over 10,000 Celsius degree. It's necessary, which made the particles to vibrate and travel so quickly that they are collides with each other inside the sun, releasing such a high amount of energy. And that's why we feel heat even in such a distance from the sun. Light particles, it takes 8 days from the light particles to receive us, to travel to planet Earth. But scientists and science only talk about what they can do, but they don't talk about what the reality is. And please make different about a scientist and the shadow organization above science discoveries, because we're talking about two different things. In case of living organisms, like plants, animals, and humans, there's a unique property called cold fusion. While applying the matrix drops protocol, the body is capable of producing any necessary element for itself when we are presenting a pure information pattern to it. On a body temperature, so there's no need for such a heat. Every plant is capable to create a missing element for themselves. We have to understand the newest scientific discoveries, which shows a completely different reality from plants, from their life and from their organization or from their production, as we taught before. Because the materialistic worldview today is to put into the soil whatever it's missing there. This is how today people think about the plants. But the last few decades discoveries shows that the plants grow their roots so they are connected to the ground, and they need water to create electrolytes, a kind of a frequency or voltage, very low voltage, to be able to transfer the energy between the leaves and the roots. But reality about them is that they do not pick up any minerals from the soil, because then it would miss from the soil. And the reason is not them, so it's not the reason why we are missing elements from the soil, but the disturbance we make with the chemical fertilizers. So what they do by photosynthesis is that they are picking up, they are decoding the carbon from the carbon dioxide from the air. They are keeping the carbon for themselves to build up their bodies because they are carbon based, and they are releasing the oxygen for us, what we breathe. As I said at the beginning, our relationship is fully dependent on them, because without them, we would not like to be able to breathe. So this cold fusion capacity, what they have, is what we can actually awaken by the applied information patterns. It's an observation on very poor soil quality, where seeds have been sown and the grass is growing same as much as on good quality land. Another experience or experiment, for example, which might be known from the internet, it's common today, is that scientists made experiments with the eggs. They actually burned the eggs and they investigated the ashes. What is the leftover? And they found several minerals after. What was interesting is the calcium level, for example. The same scientist waited for the chicken to come out from the egg and then burned the chicken. What was the leftover, what was in the chicken ashes, was the biggest surprise, because its calcium contained was 8 times more than what was in the egg. How come? It's a closed system. Nobody is able to put calcium into it. What is the phenomenon? What is the explanation then? How come a chicken contains 8 times more calcium than the egg? Now, you possibly all know the answer. The chicken, by cold fusion, created for himself, itself. This is an amazing capacity, not only the animals, but we also have. You see a boy story, and it's also available on the website on matrixdrops.com. A boy, a 9 years of age boy named Kuhn, who discovers from a very rare disease called Perthes disease. It's a terrible disease which whoever suffers in it, these people, hip bone disappears. So it's a bone development disorder. This child, parents are doctors. When they discovered, by bringing the son into the hospital and they were diagnosed the disease, the child was told that he will not be able to walk. These people with the disease are actually walk by sticks for the rest of their life. Kuhn was a very strong child, and he decided that he won't accept that he have to forever. But for 1 year, he didn't step on his legs because he was waiting for answer and help. In the first year, he received medical treatments. He was in the hospitals, and because the parents are representing one of the top knowledge in the medical, they received calcium implants. They did the implants and they were waiting for the results. Do you remember the same happens in everyday farming? We apply physical substances into the body and we are waiting for the response. For 1 year, the child was in hospital and there were no improvement, not even stop in his progression. After 1 year, miraculously, the parents found the inventors of matrix drops. So they were asking for information patterns. The matrix drops computer was showing that Kund, this child, showed in his information patterns disturbances from vaccines, autonomy disturbance it's called. His bone, before he received bone builder programs, there were disturbances in his pattern made by heavy metals, accumulation of heavy metals. So the first treatment, which was, I think, lasting for 3 months, the child received the necessary information patterns for the autonomy disturbances and for heavy metals to make them disappear, so the calcium, the information patterns of calcium will have space to build in. Because if there's heavy metals in the bones, as you see on the picture, there's no place for the calcium. This is how, and plenty more stories you can find, and you can see pictures how the heavy metals are being a part of us. And it doesn't show by any test because they are inside the bones, inside the muscles. 6 months of treatment, and then Kund received matrix drops information patterns, the calcium, several calcium and calcium builder patterns like calcarea carbonica, calcarea fluorica. These are combined compounds of elements which are responsible inside us as information patterns, and it's very important for our bone building, for our bone manifestations. They see the results, and this is what you see on the second scan. The first shows that his hip bone disappeared in 2 centimeter deep, 5 centimeter wide. The second picture shows that the progression stopped, and after 8 months, he started to improve. And the last scan shows that in a year's time, the bone building progress is perfect. The child left the hospital with a perfect bone state. How come? What did happen? He didn't receive calcium. He received information patterns which through the child, by his capacity of code fusion, with the application of matrix drops, because the child bad position in the hospital have been defined. Previously, the geopathic stress disturbance was present above his hip, so it was necessary to get him to a clear position for the connection and for the code fusion. And the miraculous story, the miracle followed the information patterns. So the highest being, the highest communication resulted the code fusion for the child. Similarly, in the next story, for another child who had tight bone osteoporosis. It's another very rare problem, but exists today, even for children. Basically, when the child, the teenager boy, broke his tight bone, in the hospital, after the scan, the doctor said that there's not enough bone, so the bone cannot heal itself. It was so tight as the straw, for example. There's no possibilities, there's no way it can heal, it can seal itself. There's no medical progress or method whatsoever in this case. Similarly, than Kund's story, the child parents, she's also a doctor, but she's a dentist, found the inventors, and the child received these information patterns after the heavy metal treatment again, which was the first treatment. His bad position was defined because over the tight bone is where the child slept in geopathic stress. And then after a few months, it was scanned again. You see the final results. It started to grow. He didn't receive any calcium. He received calcium information pattern. and the child, as you see, fully regrow the missing bone. Cold fusion. Nobody applied any substance whatsoever, neither energies. Played music. I know it sounds like mad, but played music would not be capably access ourselves to the cold fusion. For this, we have to travel a dimension up, a dimension to the consciousness where all these things possible. Everybody, every human being, and also animals and plants. But meanwhile, plants do this progress with photosynthesis, how they unpack the photon particles from the sun and they pack them in for ourselves. The human body is capable by the use of the enzymes. So this is an amazing art, an art of self-healing, which everybody, every one of us is capable of. Maybe there's no presentation not to mention this amazing gentleman. András himself, he's saying that Albert Szent-Györgyi is my mentor. The amazing gentleman, the amazing scientist who used his brain and he was able to think with it, which is a very, very rare thing. He said that since the molecular system of water, molecular structure of water is the essence of all life, the person who can control this structure in the cell will be able to change the world. After all these presentations we do together, I hope you feel there's nothing can stop you to change your world. And then you can change others as well. Because this control is made by the information patterns. If we remember Max Planck, after Szent-Györgyi, after even Albert Einstein, he was the one who said, there's no matter exists as such, but everything what we see is controlled by a higher being, which is consciousness. This is the word where the information patterns are coming from. And this is how we can control the structure in every cell. Because everything which is living is water-based. This is how scientists are actually describe life form. Everything, and basically the appearance of the water, made life as it is possible on planet Earth. But if you don't think in information level, if you want to put together substantial elements and the water, you can wait forever, it will never create life. But the informations are the one which make lives, and they made when the first time water formed, so it made suitable environment on planet Earth for the formation of life. This is the word I would like to drive your attention. Increase your consciousness to access and understand. Because what's going on today is a disaster, sorry for the word, how the plants are treated, how the materialistic worldview, this very low level of understanding, because it's not consciousness, is what's going on. And I would like to drive your attention that it's enough for the plants. The crop circles and the messages of the worldwide formed phenomenon have been decoded. Now, these crop circles appeared first in London, in England, and we have listeners from England. This is where they happened. I was actually talking with a lady whose father was a farmer, and I believe, and you possibly know, it's not possible. They are not man-made. So farmers are saying that they are out in their fields, they found the crop is perfect, and after a few seconds, minutes, the patterns appear on the land. Nobody really understood its message. On the internet, you will find several trying to understand what is the message of them. Mostly they are connected to the UFOs, which not a bad thing. So it's not a bad guess, because then you would understand that it would made from above, because these diameters, these exact diameters nobody would be able to do it from the ground. And in such a big volume, like you see how big they are, possibly hundreds of meters wide. Now, the real message was revealed by András. The information patterns, what we see as a 2-dimension, as a sheet in front of us, is only a visible message which have been left over from a higher dimensional being, what we call consciousness. We're not even in the energy level, but in the 5th dimension. As we know that the plants have soul, we are actually not in the energy level, but we are in the level of consciousness in the 5th dimension. The 2-dimensional message was left by their soul, and it's not a positive message. Why does these circles, these forms, appeared always on genetically modified crops, on weeds worldwide? Why not on corns or potato lands, for example? The answer is because with the genetic modifications, humanity accessed to somewhere, to a level, to the creation itself, which we were not meant to or not supposed to. The genetic modifications creating a different creature. And what we see, as you see on the right picture, as a television, it's a 3D television. The message from the plants, from the high dimensional being, is that they don't assist to it anymore. So their soul left these fields. And if we won't stop doing and growing genetically modified crops, do not stop the genetic modifications, there will be more of these patterns left. And then we can start thinking what we are going to eat. The genetic modifications resulted 70% more gluten contained in these crops. And the plant said, or the matrix said, the creator said, I do not assist anymore for what you are doing. It is time to wake up. Let me show you the video to see.
Here are some two-dimensional versions that seem to be revealing the torus in 3D.
Understand what the message was. I hope after this film now it's more understandable that what we see on the ground, on the soil, on the crop field is that it's just a message. that that message is not positive to us. So it's time to go positive. And because the informational field, the consciousness field have been decoded by the assist of the highest consciousness, we are accessed to the keys of the dimensions, the keys to the creation. We are going to be able in the future to call back their soul with the information patterns wherever they left. These information patterns are the keys and the common language between every living creature. The information patterns are same as understood by the plants, by humans, and also by the animal kingdom. Matrix drops information patterns are created on crystal clear water, but the water is only the carrier. Because the water is the base of life, water is a possible and best opportunity to transform the information pattern to every living cell of the living beings. These patterns are used by our farmers, and let me show you the video of Kevin Laffan. I don't see what's coming. First of all, I would like to show you the video I filmed with a garden. How we were able to communicate with a garden here in Ireland called Sonarte. Sonarte is an eco garden. It's a garden which never been touched by any chemicals whatsoever since the 1980s. The owner of the farm is a gentleman from Belgium, Luke, who didn't apply chemicals, but his life dream was on 2-acre fields to create this beautiful garden. When we arrived, because I got involved and I met with the planter, the main grower, he asked me to apply the matrix information patterns because of his previous amazing experience. So I made a video about the transformation of the plants in the whole garden. Now, let me stop the video because I made comparison. And this is what you see on the left and the right picture with the plants after matrix drops have been applied. On the right side, you see without matrix. You see yellowness, and I will show you more pictures which shows bacteria were present, and a beautiful different green, different reality, as they formed a much perfect reality by the received information patterns. Because the information patterns are coming from the fifth dimension, from the consciousness which have been untouched, and it's perfect. And as you've seen on the video, it is capable of regenerating itself infinitely. When it meets itself, it's recreating itself. This is where the correction is capably happening. And you see this green, the different color. And what I can also add to it is there's no slugs anymore present in the garden after the first few applications. Slugs or snails are, and every parasite are looking for plants whose are weak, so they can actually affect them. But as long as a plant is strong, they recreate a matrix, they recreate the protective fields, they don't like them anymore. Beans with matrix and without, not just read, you see the different colors. Mustard leaves, look the different green again. Potatoes with matrix and without. The whole drills after 2 weeks and 2 applications. Rocket salad. Strawberries. Grapes. Still 2 weeks between the 2 applications. The whole garden bloomed. When we started the first treatment of matrix drops, this is what I seen. What you see is disturbance in the informational field. How we know it? Because it was affecting every plant. The yellowness, and I did a scan with matrix drops computer, showed information disturbance made by pesticides. So I added 1 information pattern for the pesticides. Slugs were present at the first few weeks, at the first few days, and especially by the first time when I received a salad, for example, from the garden, there were minimum 4 or 5 slugs present in them. After the first few applications, as long you see they form different reality, the informational field rebuilt above and around the plants as well, and slugs didn't enjoy being anymore. They are affecting and looking for plants which are weak. So the information patterns, when they strengthen them, this is how we can protect them, reprotect them, because once they were protected, and please think about the environmental disturbances, giving big attention for chemicals and the atmosphere, the chemtrails, and the heavy metals. So this is how we can communicate with them and make them to not only humans capable to make heavy metals disappear. There's a leak in the nature. If there's heavy metal present on their leaves, they are the one who call in the fungicides, because the fungicides eat up the metals from the leaves. As long, and this is what the vicious circles means to me in today's farming, in the conventional way of farming, because heavy metals are present as contact sprays and contact particles in every sprays. So whoever sprays the chemicals on the leaves, they are causing the high amount of the fungicides. This is how the plants are capable to protect themselves. You see, after a few applications, every application was made in a week distance. There was a week distance between them. You see the beautiful cabbage, the size of them. They color, no slugs damage, beans, salads, several varieties of potatoes, and indoor plants. So the beautiful form, the beautiful nutrient contains are also tested by leaf analysis. Everybody is capable to do this. There are labors today which are capable to show the increasement of the nutrients. This is how the visual, the different reality shows there's a huge change in the quality. Grapes, beans, potatoes again, and even flowers, roses. There are huge problems here in Ireland with roses. Parasites causing the problem. Again, I just mentioned the reason. And there will be need for protection for green flies. But as long the nature is weak, the aura is weak, this is what gives the chance and the possibilities to the parasites, to the fungicides to attack them. So with matrix ops information patterns, we are protecting them by rebuilding the aura, their protective field, their matrix. A few seconds I filmed about the yield. These 2 acre had a good few apple trees. Some of the apple trees were really old, 150 years of age. Now, what you see is a never seen result before. The owner, Luke, the Belgian gentleman, he said to me, this is matrix fault. It was a joke that he never seen such an amount of apples on his trees ever before. Look the amount. Some of the bunches were breaking down because they were not able to hold the weight of the apples. Look how many you see everywhere. It's amazing. And this is how the nature, so we see the patterns, which is a message that they don't like it and they do not assist. What you see here is how they appreciate the information patterns when they show perfect reality, because the matrix is rebuilt, the nutrients are coming back, the pesticides, the fungicides disappears. These are the good signs, and this is how they can appreciate, welcoming us. And everyone who will apply matrix. Our story, yes, this is what comes, started mine personally with Kevin Laffan here in Ireland, our dairy farmer, who I met with a health reason. He was in trouble. He was in a bad state, a bad health condition. So when he experienced the beneficial effects of matrix, and by setting up the protocol in his life, and when his problem disappeared, which was a life challenge for him, one was psoriasis, for example, which is untreatable today, not by matrix and by cold fusion, if somebody applies. He came up with the idea and the intent to use the information patterns on his dairy farm. So I said to you that I'm not an agronomist, but I have years and years of experiences with farmers, especially with himself, who taught me for farming, and I taught him for the informational world. And you can see the results. So it's ongoing since 2013. I think the importance, and this is my personal opinion, of this project is much more important than, for example, the first steps of Moon. The reason I say this is because it's a proof that we can communicate with the plants, and it's a connection which is more important than the Rosette Stone. So we can take back the connection, and also means, because once we had it, that we can recreate the environmental damage which have been done. Usually it takes 2 years. Everybody will see the increasement of the results exponentially growing, but it takes some time because the nature is weak. Even after the first application, Kevin told me that where he turned with a water track, he's seen the different green on the leaves where the water track didn't reach. He's seen the growing matrix, and other people see as well as the aura grows and shines during the application. The first feedback from him was that he told me that my animals are shining, with his words, which means that the health increasement was visual on their coat. And not only from him, but other farmers' feedbacks tell me always the same. The first application was made before the calving season to help the cows in their hard process to giving birth to their calves. It doesn't go easy for these animals. Most of the farms and most of the cases, ropes are used. With the information patterns have been applied, it helped the cows' muscles for the expansions, so the rope was not needed anymore. I was with Kevin in the car when the wife called him and said that she's in panic because cows are coming. Kevin calmed her down. Nature will do itself. Twins arrived without assist. Amazing result. So feedback from the milk. Glanbia is the milk buyer, which quality values showed increasement in butter fat and the milk protein. These two figures are the biggest proofs and the biggest fears for farmers to change their everyday farming, their conventional farming, because they got paid for these figures. The higher the numbers, the better they get paid. Since matrix was used, the increasement was minimum 10% and it stayed constant during the year. There are better seasons, by the summertime it's higher than the winter time, but it stayed constantly higher, which means more money for the farmer. More milk, as you've seen on the video. Kevin showed me and told me about reports. By end of every year, he receives the reports from Glanbia about his production. Animal health, there's no sickness, there's no mastitis, there's no fluke problems, which are very rare and common, which are very common problems here in Ireland. So this 7 years of experiences, and that's why I made the video as feedback, is available for everyone. Even we can email people these project. It's called pilot project. Everybody can see and everybody can access to. You see the soil report. The soil report, amazing amount of nutrients, and most importantly, available nutrients, which was bounded in the soil by previously for 30 years of chemical applications, became available again, and you see the result. Amazing quality in grass and the regrowth of a missing plant, which was and which is on chemical farms where chemical fertilizers applied, white clover. White clover is a very, very beneficial plant. Kevin called and titled his grass as supergrass. This is what it is. It's a very important, carries not only nitrogen to the soil, because it's a nitrogen transmitter, but also high in magnesium. Animals, if they doesn't receive magnesium after the dry season, when they let go to the fields in the early March or February, depending on the weather, if they're lacking this element, it's leading for diseases, not on Kevin's or matrix drops farmer lands. See on the bottom picture the amount of clover, and it was actually nearly knee high when I pictured it. So it's a thick grass which is full with nutrients. Kevin feedback told me that when his animals are on the field and at the middle of the day they're already laying down, which means that they are full. Meanwhile, across the street, the same, or the neighbor farmers' animals are still eating all day long. What does it mean? Missing nutrients. Everybody called the high grass, which is grown by chemical fertilizers, as empty grass or water grass. Now, this is what we see is actually the leading quality of grass, which is resulting the matrix drops technology. Soil report shows amazing good amount or good leveled pH balance, not only for ourselves, humans, but also for the nature, the soil, the pH disturbance resulting other issues. The gentleman who took the report, made the report, he said to Kevin, he never seen such a result through his life. I think we can believe him. Another story, you've seen in the feature picture, a horse story. You can actually see from the close look, a horse, her name is April, the brown horse, who had a skin issue. You see rashes everywhere. I picture the face because April was full with these rashes, and the owner, Rose, she's an organic farmer, was actually planning to kill the horse because she just couldn't help the horse. Herself and her daughter is a vet, experienced vet. Couldn't find any solution, so they found me, and they found the matrix technology. I did a scan on the horse with matrix drops computer, and we find not only on April, but Festi on the up picture, another horse, the two horses system, the same two heavy metals, plumbum, metallicum, which is lead, and aluminium. I recommended treatment because the horse, April, on the bottom was suffering. She rubbed her face to poses and tried, because it was so itchy. So there were behavior feedbacks that the horse suffers. When she applied matrix from the hand regularly, the skin disease, these rashes disappeared, which means, similarly to the human cases I previously showed, April, the horse, made the heavy metals disappears by the received information patterns. Afterwards, Rose and Michael, the husband, used matrix on the fields. They found the reason why the heavy metals were present, and they brought the horses to a different paddocks because they found out they previously bought the land for cheap, which was a land where a gentleman sold cars, and all the parts have been just buried under the ground. It could happen. If there's no matrix computer, we would never find the reason. And again, we didn't scan any metals. We scanned metal information patterns, which showed that it's present in the horses system and present in the fields. This is how accurately in the future every farmer, every grower, every matrix drops farmer or just matrix drops fan will be able to help people and make something disappear from the land, from the soil, which have no right to be present on our fields. Heavy metals, for example. 3 individual scientific labors made experiments in Hungary through months on 1 year on 3 different crops. Very expensive governmental tests. Whoever launch a new product, the product have to go through before it's licensed. These experimental tests were made on apples, peach, and grapes. Everywhere, nothing else but matrix drops has been used. They were testing for size, taste, color, nutrient, vitamin content. Every report shows amazing increasements in the nutrients, trace elements, in the dry content, and also in the yield. Similarly, as I showed you in Sonarte Garden on the apple trees, for example. Depending on the amount have been used, the yield have been increased by 50, 60, even 70%. This is how we can advise people about the recommended dosage. There's no possibility for overdosing whatsoever, but there's a recommended application amount, which what we recommend to dilute into the different size of, for example, if it's a 2,000 liter of water track, or it's a 2-liter backpack, or just a handheld sprayer. This is how we can advise people, and if they increase the amount, the results are even better. But there's a minimum amount we recommend, and for 2,000 liter, it's 1.5 liter of matrix drops. The higher the amount, the less needs. It's saving, for example, for everyone. And it's cheaper that the use, much cheaper than the use of chemicals or any other methods. You see the results from the peach trees. You see the people who made the experiment, and they were present. They said that Maria personally, that they never seen such an amazing results. Changes on the trees as well. They were surprised about the results on the plants and on the fruits. As you see, they did a very, very fussy governmental test, and themselves personally said never experienced such a transformation from the plants. Some possibilities, some optional aspects to apply matrix drops information patterns. Only a few, because we have an armada, nearly 100 products for pests, for pesticides, for bacterial issues. Individually, a lot of information patterns for grapes, apple trees, for example, walnut trees in Hungary, or just 2001, for example, is one of our main remedy. If this information pattern is recommended by every application, parallel with other products, this pattern was made for the soil. It's something which what we recommend by every application for the farmers. Kevin using by every application, parallel, for example, with 2018, developed for the grass. Selenium information pattern. Again, selenium is a worldwide missing element. And people today applying chemically made selenium, which is made in labor. Again, they put a substance into the field which is not substantially missed. The informational field missing this informational pattern, which is a higher dimensional being. So by applying these patterns into the matrix of the fields, they will, by cold fusion, as you remember, they will be able to manifest. This is the word, manifestation, the key of creation, they will be able to manifest it again. Possibilities for pests, fungicides, growth problems. Imagine gardens where the plants are always cut back, so they have to grow again. It's an amazing information pattern for them. Injuries, for example. So it's something which can be regularly used as well. Prepare for excessive sun. Prepare for spring frost. Common problem, not only in Hungary, but here as well. In late, sometimes even May, we have a cold morning when the temperature falls below -5 even. So we can communicate these information patterns, and the plants are increasing the inner temperature so they survive. It's an amazing possibility for communication. Nettle information pattern, Utrica urens, as it's known in the Latin name, is amazing for iron deficiency. Humicum fulvicum acidum, 2 jolly jokers. The whole world is now talking about. Again, we don't use them, they physical properties, but we use them in information patterns. So the nature, the plants, animals, and humans will be able to manifest them again. This is our quality proof in grass. This is how the matrix of grass looks like. So every farmer, every experienced eyes and farmers I took to as a presentation or farm walks to Kevin's land, they were amazed. And some of them said, I might seen such a beautiful grass in childhood. Mostly nobody seen ever before. This is how we can reset the creation. And the nature assists. The nature is looking for our request, but instead of communicating with them today, we're forcing them with chemicals. With matrix drops farming, with matrix drops technology, we can take back the communication, and this is how they present. They form the beautiful reality, and the quality won't miss from this beautiful production. This is what we were presented, every one of us, by the inventors, matrix drops inventors by Ildikó and András. This is the possibility which is given for every human on planet Earth. This is how we can reset the damage have been done in the soil, in plants, in animals, and also in humans. I was going to present to you András's presentation the best I can by bringing my personal experiences in the last 10 years, and I would like to drive the attention and the possibilities for every good-willing person. For matrix drops computer, live with the possibility, ask someone for a scan. Even from distance, we are capable, as you remember from the video, to connect to the informational field, to the matrix, and we can get information from ourselves, from our loved ones in the family, or from our friends. So we can help farmers even in the everyday farming, and they are capable to find out in a few seconds, without assisting by any vet or assisting any other experts. We can tell what is the disturbance in the matrix, in the informational field, which resulted the problem. And as you've seen, if we communicate the patterns to the plants, to the informational field, they will be able to producing a beautiful reality and the best quality for ourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention.